Hey, y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Gut Girls podcast. And hopefully, you listened last week. I shared a little bit about my story and kind of caught you up to date a little bit about what's going on with me and my family. And we did that as far as like looking at different pillars of health. And what I mean by that is looking at all the things that kind of make up our well-being, like how we're looking at nutrition, we're looking at movement, we're looking at stress relief, sleep, kind of all of those things that keep you well, right? And so when some of those things go, let's say they're broken or they're lacking slightly or something, if you're thinking about these pillars as legs on a table, it starts to kind of plop over, and you have to make sure that all of those other pillars are really doing well to keep the table afloat or sturdy. And so we talked about that with my life and my family and some of the things that I do. And of course, Gut Girls was built a lot on my transformation and kind of spun it off to like, okay, what do our clients need? What can they look for? And so, but one thing that we don't do a whole lot is talk about Angela's family and Angela's kind of habits and lifestyle, because she's been doing this. If you go back and listen to her story early in episode maybe 3 or 4, something like that, where she talks about that she's been doing this for a long time now. And this has become a lifestyle for her. And so we kind of laugh about the fact that she's like, well, I don't know, I'm kind of boring. Like I do the same things, but really you're going through lots of different seasons of life over these years. And so I want to dive in a little bit. I'm going to put you on the spot and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what's been going on in your life. So I'm going to start off by, let's start off just by kind of giving people, tell about your family, the girls' ages, and then I also want you to give us a little bit of a snapshot of what's been going on the last couple of weeks, because here we are, dead of winter. You live in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's freezing cold. There's ice, there's snow, and you're snowed in. So give us a little bit of a picture about kind of like what's going on, the girls missing school and all that stuff. What's going on right now?
Yeah, it's funny because I did say to Diana, I was like, could you really? That's pretty boring over here. And she's like, no, this is good. This is great. So I'll tell you, if you guys don't know, I have 2 little girls. One is 2 and one is 6. And then it's me and my husband. And we are in the depth of winter. You guys know the storm came through. It was like all talk. I felt like over here the term is like snowpocalypse we were in, because we just don't know what to do with that weather here. Now I grew up in Pennsylvania, where it's funny because I'll like text my family and I'm like, these like it's like youth over here, like they don't know what to do with this snow. And so we did not have school for like, I think it was 10 days, and it was madness. I mean, it was craziness because you can't really go outside in this kind of weather because it's more ice, and so it's like dangerous. I mean, honestly, there has been a lot of dangerous sledding accidents, like believe it or not, just because it's pure ice over here. So you don't really necessarily want to take the kids out. So it's like, how do you keep everyone happy and healthy in this season of life? And so that's kind of where I have been. And it's funny because this is kind of what stemmed this podcast. Was I said to Diana before we started recording, I was like, believe it or not, I'm noticing some stuff changing on my skin. And it's because having these kids home for 10 days, I was like, I need a little bit of extra chocolate. Like, I deserve this. You know what I mean? Like, I deserve this after these long days of having the girls at home. And believe it or not, I mean, even after years of doing this, like Diana had said, if you guys didn't listen, go back and listen to hers before this, the episode before. But even I'm not perfect. I'm not 100% all the time. And so I think if I had to go back to like last week, it was like I had to choose between my sanity, like that, to me, mental health. Like, so just to give you an idea of where I think I struggle the most, it's probably more than mental health. And so I think last week I was like, I have to choose, right? Like, I have to be intentional here. I've got 2 young girls. How do we all stay mentally sane? And what am I going to give a little bit? And so I was like, I'm going to have a little extra chocolate. Now, I say that, and yes, this week, I literally said to my husband this morning, I was like, what what is this? And then all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got like little patches, and they're tiny, but they're like little patches on the neck area, and you probably won't even see them because they're so tiny, but I feel them. It's like rough skin. And what's interesting is, since Dinah said, like, I've been doing this for so long, and you guys also have to understand, like, I'm in the medical world, right? So like research and health and well-being and, you know, all the things. It's like what I live, breathe, and eat. You know what I mean? So like, it's sometimes it is a blessing and a curse because you know more, right? So in my family, this is kind of where I am these days when it comes to nutrition. In my family, like looking back, not just in my immediate that I talked to you guys about, but like generations, I just know, I've asked the medical questions because it's just in my nature to ask. Like, I know if there's autoimmune conditions, right? Like, I know the disease states that I'm up against genetically. Like, that's just something I've made sure that I've asked my family, talked about. And so I'm telling you this because in my family, there is a lot of autoimmunity. Psoriasis, eczema does run in my family. And so, like, am I freaking out about these little patches? Honestly, not at all, because I've tied it back to, like, I know exactly why. Last week was super stressful to have everyone home. I had more chocolate than, you know, I know better, like I should, but I chose to go that route. And then when these symptoms pop up, I'm like, oh, I know what to do. Like last night, I was already putting castor oil packs back on my body to like kind of just help my immune system and my inflammatory state. Because guys, that's what this is. I know if you're not looking, I'm pointing to like my skin a little bit. Like that's what this is. It's inflammation, right? Like I know that immediately, and so I'm like, okay, what have I learned over all the years to do for inflammation? Well, I cut the trigger food out. So like, okay, I'm not going to do as much chocolate there for a while, and I'm going to do some castor oil packs just to help draw out the inflammation. I'm going to drink more water. I've started back on the LVGB, which is like a liver gallbladder support from Designs for Health, which I love. And I know that this will be gone. Like, you know what I mean? But I know where it comes from. It comes from genetics. It comes from increasing the inflammatory foods in my diet under a stressful season, which was having 2 girls at home for 10 days in the, you know, dead of winter here in Charlottesville.
I love that you're so honest about that, because it is, you know, you provide education and advice to a lot of people, and, you know, you're like, I don't have it perfectly all the time, right? You just, I mean, you felt like indulging in a little bit of chocolate, you went for it, and then you had a little bit of flair from it, right? But the great thing about it is you don't let it continue to compound, and you know now what you need to do in this season. Like, hey, that didn't really serve me super well. Sure, I can probably still have some, but I just shouldn't have so much. And so what I'm going to do is get back to my good baseline, right? Get back to closer to your homeostasis, and then maybe you can enjoy a little bit more next time or whatever. So I appreciate you kind of sharing with us like where you guys are sort of in your current state, and, you know, with your kids having to be home from school, like that is truly stressful. So I want to start first with, tell us a little bit more, tell us about the nutrition piece for what you guys do when you are at home. And, you know, I know that you guys love stews and things like that. So teach us a little bit about like what do you do? Like what did the girls eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner when y'all were home for 10 days and couldn't get out of the house?
Yeah. Actually that was probably the fun part of it for me, because I love to nourish my family. It's just a part of who I am. You know what I mean? In this gut journey, it's like, I know that's the one thing, right? I can't control, as you moms know, much about your kids, but like I can nourish them. And then it's like, and they're stuck here with me, so they have to eat it, right? So we always wake up and have a very protein dense breakfast, because I know that that's going to start the girls off, especially when I was stuck at home with them. It's like, okay, their moods, it's 3 women in a house, like not, I guess, full grown women, but, you know, 3 very strong female presence, and so like we're going to be all over the place. So the last thing I want to do is lose control with their emotions being based on blood sugar dysregulation, right? So starting the morning off with breakfast, we cycle through foods a lot. So that's something that if you've ever worked with us, we teach is cycling through food. So like breakfast could be eggs. It could be like an organic chicken sausage. Sometimes the girls will do yogurts, and we'll even sprinkle a little bit of collagen or whey protein. We'll kind of divvy it up into the yogurt to add a little bit more protein, and then nuts and seeds. They love pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds. Some nights we might do overnight oats, or some mornings we'll have overnight oats because we soak them the night before. And again, in that breakfast, if we do it, there's collagen or whey protein, nuts and seeds. And that's usually never just a breakfast. It's always with a protein. And so some mornings we've even done like egg muffins, like in like batch cooking that week, like some egg muffins with a little bit of like boar's head ham in it and cheese. So I know that they're eating that. And so I have found with my own girls is keeping the rotation of food. They are more interested. If it's the same breakfast over and over again, it's like, oh, this again. So with the girls, keeping a little bit of a variety, and I enjoy it myself. And then Taylor, my husband, interesting enough, he wakes up every morning, and this is something he found out about himself, but I'm going to say this because I think it's important. You guys know that we always push about caffeine, not having it very first thing in the morning, but a little bit after waking. And he was, for the longest time, just having caffeine right upon waking, and he would crash midday. And so what he started, and this has been maybe like a few months now, but he'll wake up and make a shake real quick. So like a good protein shake to start his day, and he'll have his caffeine later, like after that. And so that's kind of like our morning routine as a family, is getting that in. And then, just to kind of continue off that, lunch is always a leftover dinner, because as much as I love to cook and nourish my family, if I'm in the kitchen and I've got two girls running around, before you know it, someone has scissors in their hands, and I'm just like, okay, there goes cooking lunch, right? Like, it's not the time of the day, honestly, to be in the kitchen when you've got littles in the house. So I made sure that week that we made big bowls, or I should say pots of soups. We made chili was one night, and I mean, we made way more than we needed, but then we had it for the next day for lunch. We just made a big, like we do noodle, like it could be like a chicken noodle soup, but we use like the different noodles. We don't just buy it in like a can or use regular noodles. Like we'll sometimes buy like a rice noodle and put that in there versus just like your gluten based noodle. So we'll make a big pot of that. And then the other thing we'll do for lunch, which I try to keep it pretty simple, and this is where I'm like, Dinah, this is boring, but this is what I do, guys. I shoot to have some kind of seafood twice a week at a minimum, because I know the importance of seafood, the anti-inflammatory effects, the good omegas that come from it. So I will either make salmon and we'll have enough for leftovers, again, like the next day over rice, or I buy these organic salmon patties that you literally just cook down, and I'll put those with, my goodness, anything. I mean, they mix down with, it's like another meat, like turkey, ground beef, and we just put it into a lot of different meals. And the girls have grown accustomed to eating simple. I mean, honestly, we don't go out to eat very often. If we do, it is a treat. Like I'm like, hey girls, you want to go to the coffee shop with mom, maybe have a coffee, and like we'll grab lunch afterwards. Like that's a treat in our book. Or sometimes if it's like a daddy's night with the girls and mommy gets the night off, I'll be like, Taylor, go do whatever you want. Like if that's what you want to do with them, go do it. But it's so rare. And actually, Dinah, you and I were talking about this before we started recording, of it's Valentine's Day is coming up, and the school sent home this list of, hey, these are what we need for the Valentine's Day, and one of it was a box of cereal, because I think that they're decorating it to put Valentine's in. And I was like, we don't have cereal boxes, but I didn't want her to be left out, right? And so I was like, okay, this is going to be a treat. Like I'm going to make it a treat. And so how do I find a good quality cereal that she can have for just that week? We're going to have it, and then she can take the box with her to school. So I bought just regular corn Chex cereal, because that's all it is it's basically corn. And she would have a little bit in the morning, and it was never by itself. She had it with eggs, she had it with sausage, she had something with it every morning. And then we put protein powder into the Chex. So we basically just put like a milk alternative and protein powder in a shaker cup like you would a protein drink, and we pour that as the milk over her cereal. And then Taylor would break up nuts and seeds and put it in the cereal, and she thought it was like the cat's meow, like she was like on cloud nine. But when the week ended, she was like, oh, we're out of cereal. And I was like, we are. That was a treat week, because you needed the cereal box. And we won't see cereal in our house again for God knows how long. But that gives you an idea of kind of like what we do on a day in and day out basis.
I love that. There's a couple of things that come to mind about that. One is I want you guys to know that most of the people that we work with, a lot of them are moms and they have children, and they're like, your kids eat what? When Angela talks to them, I mean, we're talking like these kids will eat sardines, guys. So I'm not going to eat sardines either. So one thing that I love about Angela is that she really started introducing those foods early and got them used to like sweet potatoes being normal, right? And eating zucchini. That is what the dinner looks like. And it's not necessarily just box macaroni and cheese, Not that she doesn't ever have something like that. And of course she'll choose a better option when she does do that. But for the majority of the time, like I'd say like 95% of the time, her kids are accustomed to eating whole foods and rotating through those foods like she's talking about. I mean, I recognize most kids won't eat nuts and seeds or whatever, but if you're listening to this, and I would love for you to kind of take notes of a couple of things that Angela just talked about where she rotates those foods, make sure they get plenty of protein in the morning, actually get them used to eating breakfast in the morning. Because I will tell you, I shared my story last week. I have to like force my kids to eat breakfast. They're teenagers. They're like, I don't really want to do that. They spend more time getting their hair done in the morning, doing, curling their hair or whatever in the morning. And I'm like, no, you have to start your day this way. But her kids, Angela's kids, just know, like, you're eating breakfast. That's what it is. And so I love that about her. So you guys can learn so much from her doing that. Again, she doesn't have it perfectly, and maybe your kids aren't going to eat sardines, and that's okay. But learning to do those early, rotating through those foods, introducing them to different things, I think you can learn so much from that. So that's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. And especially, I'm glad she had a cereal box to take with her for Valentine's Day.
Well, it kind of goes back to some of the like you've talked about non-negotiables, that you have with your kids. And it's interesting because I would say, Diana, we have a lot of moms that we do work with they want to know how to bring this into their family. And I would say, guys, the younger you start them, obviously, the easier it is and the better. But don't be afraid to have like hard non-negotiables. Like, no, you will eat your protein. And you guys have all heard that rule of like, that's one of the rules in our house. If you don't eat it, you can wait till the next meal. There is going to be no snacking. Now, on those 10 days, did we have the kids snack a little bit? Absolutely, because I wasn't going to fight that battle, but they still had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it is like dinner for us is, if you don't want to eat, you don't have to eat it. But if you choose not to, you will go to bed without dinner. Like, that's just how it is. And so don't think you're being too hard. And here's what I'd also say. Don't think your kids are not going to eat and grow. Like, if you're like, but then they're not eating anything and they're going to starve. No, when they're hungry, guys, they're going to eat and they will listen to you. So you are the parent. I do think it's important to start them young because no class. I mean, Diana and I have talked about this. That's a goal of ours, is to get gut girls into like schools and things, but like there is no class in school. I know there's a lot of things that you're like, oh, they'll learn this in school. No one's teaching them about their cycle if they're females. No one is teaching them to eat protein first, because we know this because it's as the adults go through life, they come to us and they're like, why isn't this a class? Why did no one teach me this before I started having all these symptoms? So it's like, you are the one that has to teach them this. And that's why I think I push so hard with my own girls, is like, no one else is ever going to teach you that protein comes first. And You mentioned like mac and cheese. We will buy a gluten-free. Trader Joe's here has a gluten-free mac and cheese. And so we'll buy it, and probably twice a month we cook it down and put ground beef with it. So like if my girls are having mac and cheese, it is, gluten-free mac and cheese with ground beef. And so it's like, I'm going to meet you halfway is basically what I say to them. Like, you want that? This is the better way to cook it, right?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, so again, you can still do those things. I mean, heck, you could even throw some collagen on top of that. I mean, we laughed the other day that in our Gut Girls community where Angela was like, here's how I get extra protein in with my kids. Y'all, when I tell you she had peanut butter on one side with, I assume, some sourdough bread or something, and then on the other side it was like probably some strawberry jelly. I'm sure she looked at all the ingredients in both of those things. But then she literally sprinkled like this whole humongous amount of like collagen, and you can see it, and you're like, wait, is that not going to taste like so grainy? And she said, no, it absorbs so well for them. And so I love that our community like saw her do that, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can add collagen to so many things. Like maybe I even added to a PB&J.
It mixes into like, we use it mixes into sun butter. So if you're doing a peanut butter and jelly for your kids, and Diana and I talk about good, better, best, and you just want to shoot for better, put that sun butter on there with jelly and send them. We actually use the Canyon Bakehouse gluten-free bread, like the Mountain White, and I put it together, and I was like, here you go,
Perfect.
And it's like, just think a little bit, because then I'm like, okay, I can do a cheese stick in that lunch, and there's a little bit more protein. Or we'll buy like the cleanest yogurt pack we can find, right? And it's like, okay, here's a yogurt pack to go with that, so at least it's more protein. So it's like just intentional planning like that your kids don't feel like, I would never send them to school eating sardines. Like, they'll eat that at home, but I would never send them to school eating sardines.
So before we go on to the next part, one of the things that I do want to throw into here that I do love about the Gut Girls community, and just like I talked about her, sharing that, she didn't share it on social media or anything. She shared it inside of our community where she sprinkled that on there or whatever. And so that's one thing that I do love about the community, and what some of the resources and stuff that we've created that our members have access to are things like the swap guide. So when we talk about these different brands and things like better quality brands, good, better, best, like we have those resources available inside the membership. And I mean, you can get started for as little as $15 just to have access to like our whole resource library, which we have spent literally, I mean, how many years, Angela? 4 or 5 years, like developing all of these resources, and like these swap guides and stuff like that have those different brands that we swap to, that are better choices for our families. And so I want to leave you with that on kind of the nutrition side with what Angela does. And again, she shares like we don't do a ton of like recipes and stuff like that, because we talk about the hand guide and the portions and all those kind of things. But inside the community, we do share some recipes and things. Like I mentioned, JC Kate made some gluten-free, dairy-free, refined sugar-free like cookies and protein bars and stuff like that. So we share things like that. Angela will share how she puts together that, the chicken soup and things like that she talked about earlier. So, okay, Angela, one thing that I want to talk to you about is I want everybody to hear what you do for movement, for exercise. This is one of those things that I know that when we text and you're like, I'm at the gym, you're trying to like de-stress, and you're like, I have to go to the gym today. So tell me a little bit about like what you do for movement. What does an ideal week look like for you?
Yeah, movement has changed a lot for me over the years, which you had said the same for you in the last episode. So when I would say, like, when I was early in my journey, it was the like literally going to the gym, and I think it was proving my strength, because it was like deadlifting. I mean, I would like, it was funny, me and my husband Taylor would compete. I mean, obviously he beat me every time, but I'd be like, oh, I'm right behind you, deadlifting as much as I could. And I enjoyed those days. But then, to be honest, guys, then I had kids and my body changed. And so knowing that, I wasn't upset that I couldn't work out the same way, but I was like, okay, I got to meet my body where it is. So fitness nowadays is a lot more gentle. I have a 2-year-old. So, I mean, it was just 2 years ago that, I gave birth to her. So like I'm not that far removed from, I guess, what you'd call like postpartum in a sense. And so gentle movement for me nowadays is like Pilates at home. In fact, when the kids were home for those 10 days, we put Adeline loves, that's my oldest, yoga and Pilates on TV. So we put a YouTube video on and we try to do it. And oh my gosh, guys, I'll share with you. It was like one of the Pilates videos, and she was doing a ton of abs, and Adeline was doing the abs with me, and she was like, oh my gosh, my stomach hurts so bad, oh my god. She was laying on the floor. I mean, it was awesome. I was like, okay girl, this is what like the burn feels like. Oh my god, it was just comical. And Eloise will be climbing on top of me. I mean, that's in those 10 days, that's what I did. I got the girls involved. They will do what you do. I mean, in that age, it's that simple. They will do what you do. So that was what fitness looked like snowed in. But then when I can, I kind of like to combine my mental and physical health. Like Diana said, that's a big de-stressor for me. So on like summer, spring, and any day I can get out, I will go for long hour walks with my dog, and I will get up into the mountains. Literally, I remember texting Diana one day, and I was like, I just literally ran from a bear. I mean, I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia. There are bears here, like in the little place that I live. And I was like, I literally just ran from a bear. I'm not kidding you. So I try to get up in the mountains because it just gets me away from the noise of life. And that's where I'll find, gentle walking, in long, more like endurance walking, you know what I mean? And then if I get time to go to the gym, it's like, yeah, this is for mental decompression. And that's when sometimes Taylor and I will be able to do like a workout together. We probably don't get to as much as you and Todd, but we will, partner up and do a workout together there. Or I'll take a class, like a yoga class, you know what I mean? And then hit the sauna afterwards. But most of the time it's more gentle and Pilates-based strength, and a lot of walking, and just honestly doing it with my kids, Taylor and I, one of our favorite things to do when it's not winter is to put those kids in the like when they're young, put them on a backpack with us and walk. And I remember I actually love like being able to be like, I can literally take my kid in a backpack up this mountain and back down. Like I enjoyed the challenge. Now they're a little bit older, so the challenge is a little bit different. But Adeline being 6 has definitely gone on like 6 to 7 mile hikes. And that's a lot for her age, but we try to make it family friendly and get out in nature as much as we can together. So that's kind of what fitness looks like now.
I know that's the stuff that like feeds your soul, is just to be, to go for a long walk, to go for a hike or whatever. I've been trying to get Angela to move to Tullahoma for a long time, and I'm like, hey, we have like great walking trails and we have waterfalls.
Yeah. You guys do.
I think I even sent her one time like a map of Tullahoma that I was like, look at all the great hiking around here. But okay, so let's just because I know we talked about your movement and like what you do sometimes to kind of like decompress, but a lot of times you said that is kind of gentle. And one of the things you just talked about, like it's only been 2 years since you had a baby, and even though, sleep is better, it's getting more regular, I think, from at least like from the texts and, talking that we have. But there for the first year or 18 months, something like that, Eloise, your 2-year-old, was waking up early, so your sleep was sort of dysregulated. And so you tell us a little bit about like your sleep then, your sleep now, and how that kind of plays into your day and the movement piece. Like, so let's kind of combine those together.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember I would say to Taylor, I can handle life better on less sleep. Like you're a sleep queen. Like you're the drama queen when it comes to sleep. And it's actually not true. He was like, I think you think that. And so I'm saying that because we're like, oh, I can get away with this, right? Like we think that, like it's not affecting me. And
no, I don't think that. I have to have my sleep. I know that. I'm the sleep queen.
You're the sleep queen. But yeah, Taylor definitely proved me wrong. He was like, I'm telling you, and he'll point, like, that's the good thing about having your family keep you accountable. On emotional days, he'd be like, Angela, you did not sleep last night. Like, you were up with Eloise. And I was like, okay, like, you are right. Like, I just have to say that to myself. Sleep is super important. And if I don't sleep, I would not push myself to work out. Like, I wouldn't even call it a workout. It was going back to, like, you had mentioned the movement snacks. And so I'd be like, okay, did I just move today? You know what I mean? I would go back to that old theory that I like live by as a chiropractor of like the body in motion stays in motion. So I would think to myself, did I just stay in motion today? Like that was the shift I had around movement that day because sleep was so broken up. And it's funny you say that because last night, believe it or not, she's 2, but she was in our bed from like probably like I think it was 2 to 4 or 4:30. And so it like even today, will I push myself and make myself go to the gym? Absolutely not. But what I think my body absolutely is craving, and I can feel it, is like a good stretch session, maybe getting on the foam roller, working through the breathing. Like I'll do movement with breath today and it will feel so restoring. And so that's kind of how I've changed my mindset around the fitness part of it. But I judge it off of sleep, right? Like how that is the key to what am I doing today for fitness? It's how did I sleep last night? That's the rephrase. And I've supplemented to help those nights. That sleep has been crucial, or like not well, but like I know I need it. Creatine has become something I've done every morning to help those nights that just are terrible because of kids waking up and whatnot. And that's based in research, guys. I know Diana mentioned it with Michaela, her daughter, doing it, but it is based in research that just having, somewhere around 5 grams in the morning can actually help I won't say reverse because like that's impossible to reverse a bad night's sleep, but to help counteract a bad night's sleep. So that's something I do every morning. And then I've actually kind of stole Diana's go-to morning bone broth routine, because I would wake up and have coffee in the morning. And even though I wasn't having it first thing in the morning, guys, when you don't sleep well and you put caffeine on top of a system, oh my God, honestly, what was then the symptom I had was anxiety. And I noticed it after years, I guess the past years of having kids, and my oldest is 6, is I am more anxious on days that I did not wake up and push the caffeine back and have protein first. So it's bone broth, and then it's usually a small bite to eat, and then I'll have coffee, and then I actually come back and have like a solid breakfast, like a big breakfast. And so sleep for me, it's changed even how I start the day, right? Like I have to supplement, I have to get my protein in. And I've also noticed if I don't have a good night's sleep, electrolytes are a must the next day. So it's learning those little things that I think has kept me a little bit more balanced in these rougher years where sleep is a little bit harder to come by.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that helps you at least the time that you do get to sleep, that it's good quality sleep, because then, maybe your 2-year-old has a bad dream or something like that and comes and gets in your bed or whatever. So at least that's helping you have some good quality sleep. So speaking of your 2-year-old and your daughter, a lot of times, especially in the season that you're in and 10 days of being snowed in where you can't go anywhere or whatever, you have to really be mindful. You mentioned your mental health. That's one of the things that you focus on the most. And so tell us a little bit about that and how that fits in with, I talked about the beginning, these pillars, and the stress relief is so important for our overall well-being. And so when we are stressed out all the time, and we tell us a little bit about how you focus on making sure that you're just like kind of mentally pulled together a little bit.
Yeah, well, if you guys haven't heard like my full story, go back and listen to the earlier episodes. I think, like you said, it's 3 or 4, episode 3 or 4 of the podcast, because I actually learned early on that my mental health was the one thing that would take everything else down. No matter if I was eating clean, exercising, all the things, even good sleep. This was before kids. If my mental health was not there, it didn't matter. I was, I'd have some kind of immune thing come up and I couldn't control it. And so mental health for me is the one thing, like how you have found out, Diana. There's certain things that you just cannot, they're non-negotiables. You have to do it to maintain that balance of your gut health. For me, it's mental health. And so one thing I've kind of learned over the years is starting my day off in just like quietness is something that I don't always get, because my girls would wake up at like 5 or 5:30 for the longest time. But even if it was just 5 minutes, and it would be, if I didn't have time to read scripture that morning, it would be breath. Like, okay, I'll start to hear the pitter patter of feet waking up upstairs, and I'm like, okay, don't panic, but just sit here and take like, maybe it's 10 deep breaths before they wake, make their way down the stairs. So it's just that moment of just breathing and stillness. And it's had to get even quicker than that, as the kids have changed a little bit over the years, to where sometimes it's just me putting my hand on my body and saying, you are safe. Like, and I would literally, and that seems crazy because I think people would be like, how does that even do anything for you? But knowing that physical touch, I'm a chiropractor here in Virginia, so like physical touch can transform a nervous system. I've learned that being a chiropractor. Women have come and sat on my table, and I would just touch their shoulders, and I would literally say the words like, what are you carrying today? Because this, like, it was like you, Diana, when you said you would fill your water bottle up and your shoulders would be up here. People come and sit on my table with their shoulders way up to their ears, and I would just put my hands on them and be like, what are you carrying today? And literally just saying that, their shoulders would come down. So I've learned to do that to myself, where I'll just put a hand on my chest and say like, you are safe. All is well, whatever it is. My mental health has had to get quick. Like, what can I do for my nervous system that is quick and effective? And I'm consistent about it. I do it every single day. So that quiet time is key. And then as a mom, guys, I have learned to set a boundary, and this has come over 6 years of being a mom. But if I'm a mom that, anxiety is something I struggle with, if I am not on top of things, and mental health is a huge, it has to be more than, I would say, nutrition for me. It has to be mental health. That I have learned to ask for help and set boundaries. Like, my husband knows now, okay, the one thing that Angela needs is like an afternoon to herself. So like, I think I had said in the podcast that we did last week with you, Diana, of like, sometimes it's like, if my husband decides to have a night out with the girls, like that's daddy's night, I don't tell him like, you can't take them here, you can't go out to eat with them. I'm usually just like, whatever you guys want to do, go do. I have no say so. Even if it's like going through a Chick-fil-A drive-through, I'm not going to judge that, and I'm not going to try to control that, because he's doing it to give me a night to myself. And like, we've learned that over the years. So I say that because we talk to so many women that are like, but I'm doing everything right. I'm eating right. I'm working out, I'm sleeping. And I would just say though, I think the biggest thing that we miss is the mental health, and asking for time to yourself. If you don't have time to yourself, oh my gosh, to then, have everything else in order, it like doesn't work, right? So it's like setting a boundary. I think that's what my mental health has become over the years, is it's a boundary where I'm like, nope, I need this night out with a girlfriend, and I'm asking for it and I'm taking it. So like, I'll say to my husband, you figure it out. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. He's learned like, yeah, I will figure it out because I want you to have your sanity. Or he'll take the girls to the gym for 2 hours so that I have time to myself. So I think asking for that is key.
I love that you've like learned that you have to have that time, and that you ask for it, because a lot of times it's hard to ask for help. If you don't have somebody that's just sort of on call. I know there's some people that are super blessed that have, a mom or an aunt or somebody like that that's just kind of like, oh, well, let me take your kids. But if you don't have that, you have to figure out how to make the time with you and between you and your husband to take time for yourself. And so I love that. And one thing that I feel like you do a good job of, when, obviously I know when you get stressed out, we talk about those kind of things. But one thing that I do love about that, when you do go for like your walks in the woods, or when you have your time, is that you, make sure that you take the time to like have gratitude and thankfulness for all of the blessings that you do have. And so one thing that, we kind of we've talked about before, and I try to keep it in the back of my mind, is like, instead of being like, I have to do this and this and this and this, it's like, I get to do this. Even in my episode, I was like, I'm a business owner, and you have multiple businesses as well, and so I have to do this and I have to do this, but it's like, I get to do that. And when you kind of turn that up, it's kind of like the whole looking at the glass half full or half empty. And so you have to be so intentional to do those things. And it can be so hard. But when you just have that mindset shift to that, I feel like it does make such a big difference. And again, we talk about this community, but even just me and you, you're so great for me doing that, like in my mental health and like my stress relief too, because it's like, okay, when I get stressed out, we're working on a project or something, and I'm like, I've done this 100 times and I can't get it right. You're like, walk away. Go do something else, And so I hope that I kind of do that for you too. And I've learned a lot from you in how you kind of manage those things, and especially when it comes to like your mental health and things too. So anything else you want to add about your life or movement or anything else that's going on?
I think we've covered probably a good core of it, and I just want to encourage everyone. It's available to you, right? Like we talked about that in the community, but I would say like we still have clients and members who are out there struggling, and I would say like, if we had to say like the one thing that maybe like, because you and I mean, granted, you guys realize like Diana and I, we own this business, so we're constantly talking in the background, like we're trying to get our clients to, we want you guys to succeed, like you're like family to us. And so we've had that conversation of like, if we see a client that doesn't succeed, why do we think that is? And it's because they haven't taken advantage of the community. If I'm being honest, it's those clients that haven't shown up and been vulnerable in a community. That, guys, is honestly, I think, what takes your transformation to the next level, because then you know that you're not alone. You're not the only one going through it. So I hope that even between, if you didn't listen to Diana's podcast in the last episode, do it, and then this one, to let you guys know that we are not perfect. We struggle as well. But when you do it in a community, it allows you to then, I think, transform into like that mindset of like, I get to do this though. Like this isn't a symptom that I'm doomed, by. I get to figure it out. I get to know more about myself. I get to know more about others, how things work in this world, and all that. Like that is beautiful. And so, I just hope that you really learn maybe that from this. If you take nothing else away, is that community can be so powerful.
Yeah, it really can. And one thing that we've tried to do, we're constantly, like you said, we're working in the background and constantly trying to make sure that our clients are successful. And it doesn't happen that often because most of the time people are ready for transformation. And so they generally do find success. But if they don't, it's because maybe we didn't set the expectation. And so that's one thing that I kind of like about this podcast and my podcast, where we talk about it being over years, and how not only over years, but how the different seasons change constantly. And so this community does help with that. So taking advantage of that, depending on what season you're in or whatever, we're all going through different things, and doing it together is so beautiful the way that we can do that. And so we have kind of, one of the things that we have done in kind of like our upgraded membership that we're working on is to set the expectation. And even though, one of them is like, we really want you to do this for multiple months, it's really, I even said it, it's years, right? So we kind of tried to set that expectation a little bit. It doesn't happen overnight. These changes take a long time. And sure, a lot of times like the symptoms start relieving really quickly within sometimes days, couple weeks, something like that. And so people, that's what kind of catapult them into that success. But it's really living the lifestyle and doing this for the long run is what makes people so successful. So, I'm so appreciative of this, of like what I've learned from you and what I've learned from myself, and how we have all pulled this together. And again, continuing to learn even from our own members that are teaching us along the way too, which is so cool. I love that part about it too. So, thanks for sharing with us, Angela. We are glad that you opened up and kind of shared some of the things that your family experiences and what you experience and stuff. So, guys, we are going to wrap it up, and we will catch you on the next episode. The Gut Girls podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We are not acting as licensed medical professionals. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your health routine.